for the reminder, and I just clicked record. So all of you in the witness protection program, remember, you're being recorded.
Exactly. Okay, so with that, Adrian, I'm going to fade into the background, right? I'm going to go on mute and turn off my camera, and then I'm just going to be hanging out. You guys ping me. Do you guys want me to monitor chat, or are you going to do that?
We'll keep an eye on chat, but if you see stuff that we're missing, will you, and especially towards the end where we have time for Q&A, Jennifer, will you bring it to our attention?
You bet.
Thanks.
Okay, I'm going to fade in the background. Good luck. This is going to be a good thing. I'm looking forward to it, ladies.
Thanks. Me too.
Okay, I'm going silent.
So gang, here we all are. And you guys can also watch the participants, you know, by clicking on participants and see that we have the 5 of us on the panelist side and then 5 attendees. Oh, some good names I see out there in attendee land.
How many were you expecting, Adrian?
There was 40 registrations. And so
52.
what? Oh, 52.
Sorry, it just updated. 52.
So peer-to-peer when no one is near. Right. So we will get kicked off right at noon. Let's see. Yeah. Before I joined, were you guys talking about lunchtime etiquette and if y'all were going to be having lunches?
No, I just was like, I'm finishing up eating like a small bagel. Let me just finish. So, you know.
Yes. There's one.
Alex, I'm curious, did you hear anything from your friend about what she thinks of Just Giving?
They're still doing their events. So it's like 100 nights for children's, right? So she didn't actually use it in her email. So they don't have the same situation that you do where there's like all the, she said they did realize that they weren't going to be able to pull in the addresses and stuff. They don't think they're looking at as many donations as you are, you know? So, you know, and a lot of them come like, are going to come through donor advised funds and stuff like that, the way that they're, so it's not as much like that, I guess.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. We have just hit the 12 noon mark for nonprofit Bites and Insights, and I would love to kick us off. I'll give a little bit of background on the webinar that you're attending, and then I will introduce our panelists, and then we're going to get right into the thick of things with each of our 4 panelists sharing about 10 minutes on a specific peer-to-peer fundraising tool, technique, strategy that they're using, and we're going to save time at the end for some questions. So I'll begin by introducing myself. My name is Adrian Craighead, and I am the Director of Financial Development for Apparo. Apparo has been around for about 18 years as a nonprofit serving Charlotte area nonprofits. So we are truly a capacity building nonprofit that works to infuse technology training, tools, guidance, and strategy so that other nonprofits can do more good in the world. We want you guys to be able to work with the same amount of employees and the same amount of dollars and the same amount of days in the week and hours in the day, but through technology to be able to get more accomplished and have more impact in the world. Now, of course, we hope some of these tech tools help you increase your own capacity, which is what we're going to be talking about together today on Nonprofit Bites and Insights. It's all about fundraising. So as you guys saw in the promotional materials for this webinar, the title that we named it is Peer-to-Peer When No One Is Near, to reference COVID, of course. And it's how to engage your advocates to fundraise for you in a virtual world, how to give them some tools to make it easier to advocate for your agency out there. A couple highlights that you guys will be sure to come away with are some strategic approaches to using these tools in your own fundraising. one of the key things we agreed on as a group is it's important to craft the concept before you even start to think about what technology tool can help you accomplish that concept. And then it's important to think about how to recruit the right people to come and participate in peer-to-peer fundraising, giving them the right tools. And there'll be some tools that offer more bells and whistles and some that offer less bells and whistles. And so we'll give you some criteria on how to make that decision for your own organization. And finally, we will also be sharing some resources with each of you as an email at the end of this event. So you'll have a recording to this webinar, and you'll also have some resources on how to reach out to the panelists and ask further questions, and a few details about some of the topics that we'll talk about today. So without further ado, I would love to introduce our panelists. I'm going to introduce all 4 of them, and then we're going to pass the microphone one by one at a time so that we can each share a little bit about the story that we want to share with you today. So the first panelist I'm very honored to introduce is Alex Reardon. Alex is in blue. She is the VP of Advancement for the Girl Scouts Hornets Nest Council. And she she'll be talking to us today about running a sister-to-sister campaign through CauseVox. And she's also one of the first friends I met in fundraising world. She thankfully agreed to be my mentor through AFP, Association of Fundraising Professionals. So Alex, it's an honor to have you here. Next on the list is Miss Karen Martin. Karen, give us a wave. Karen is the Director of Development for the Ada Jenkins Center in Davidson. She'll be sharing with us a little bit about a campaign she ran called Confections for a Cause, and the tool she used was QGive. And Karen and I are connected in a unique way in that she used to sit in this chair and be the development director for Apparo. So she was also an early peer welcoming me to the nonprofit fundraising world. And finally, the third guest I'd like to introduce, Amber, give us a wave. This is Amber Tracewell. Amber serves our community as the Director of Development for Carolina Breast Friends. And she's got an amazing story to share about how she powers the Dancing with the Stars initiative through a tool called Just Giving. Again, my name is Adrienne Craighead. I'm the Director of Development for Apparo. And at the end of these 3 stories, I'll share a little bit about a tool that we like to use. And it's called Give Lively. And we use it to throw something called AMP parties, AMP or Apparo multiplier parties. So I can see that we've gotten to the 12:05 mark. We've had a few more attendees log in. We're welcoming questions throughout in the chat box, but remember, we are going to pause towards the end of this webinar and have a good 10, 15 maybe minute discussion with questions. So if we don't pause in the middle of our storytelling to answer your questions, just know that those will be read and reviewed at the end, and we'll try to get to as many of those as we can. So without further ado, I would love to pass the microphone to Alex Reardon.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I don't think that I have to tell you about my organization, the Girl Scouts, since it's pretty well known, and we just did go through our cookie season. So hopefully you all got to partake in that. We are across an 8-county footprint, and that's broken up into 19 service units. So we are touching between 8,000 to 12,000 members a year between girls as well as adult members. So for us to use a platform, it had some very specific things that I was looking for. And I'd actually decided pre-COVID that we would do this, so we don't use it for events. It's a crowdfunding platform called CauseVox. And we currently use it for 3 different campaigns. The great thing about CauseVox is that you can use it for multiple campaigns. It doesn't have to just be for one, and you don't have to pay for more. There are different levels that you can pay for. So there's a free platform. I don't know, I can't remember with my other panelists here who uses a free platform, but we actually chose to use a paid part of it so that we could get more information. But really, we did it because of capacity building. I run a really small shop at the Girl Scouts, and for what we were using it for, which is to allow our troops to do philanthropy for us. Prior to getting onto CauseVox, it was a lot of back and forth with a lot of different people and a lot of different questions coming in about, did this check come in? Did this person send in what they were supposed to send in? Where am I at the end of the month? So we really chose a platform that would allow the people that were participating to see up to the moment how much money they had raised and who was raising that for them. So that was really the impetus for us going to CauseBox. I can't say that I found it on my own. A sister council was using it quite effectively. And so far this year, it's been super helpful. I think one of the other really helpful things about it, and I know this is true for all peer-to-peer fundraising also, is that it allows them to compete with each other, which they weren't really able to do before because we were the only ones that kind of saw if they were meeting their goals or not. And now they can actually see and compete with each other, see who's got what goal and where everybody is. And it's also been an easy way for them to share it too, instead of constantly having to talk to their girls and parents about this philanthropy part of their experience. They can just share this link and say, hey, everybody, remember, we've got the Sister to Sister campaign going on, and send it out to grandma, grandpa, whoever, and they could share it really easily on social media. So that's all I will say about that, and we'll wait to hear questions. I'll pass it along.
Awesome. Next up on the list, we've got Karen, who's going to share a little background story, first about her organization, and then please share about the peer-to-peer campaign you want to share.
Thank you, Adrian. I am so thrilled to be here. Hello, everybody. I see a lot of friends in the chat and in the attendees, so that's really exciting. I went ahead and did just a couple little slides about us, largely so that I didn't forget anything, which I typically would do. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and tell you a little bit about the Ada Jenkins Center and then a little bit about our peer-to-peer campaign. So first of all, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Is that working? All right, excellent. So the Ada Jenkins Center, Adrian said, located in Davidson, we're a human services, social services organization to help struggling folks reach economic stability. And we specifically serve Cornelius, Davidson, and Huntersville. That's our service area. Here are our services, kind of a wraparound, helping people get to where they want to be. Some folks come in and they're in crisis, they need food, but some folks say, I've got this job, I want to do more. So we put them in touch with a career coach. And then we have social workers who wrap it all together. So that's a little bit about what we do. Our budget is $1.6 million, and our development staff is me, full-time, and then there's 3 part-time folks and a fabulous contract grant writer. And our 3 part-time folks are events, donor management, and volunteer coordinator. So our event was called Confections for Good, and it ran February 4th to 11th, so just a week. We intentionally kept it really small because we had a small goal, and I'll talk about that in a second. But we matched this name to go along with a series of fundraisers we're doing this year. For instance, we are doing a golf tournament next month that we're calling Golfing for Good. And so we've been doing a series of these all along. So that's our name. We had a friend of mine designed a little logo that looks sort of like our logo, but builds upon it to brand the event. Our goal was just $10,000. We had already held a big virtual fundraiser in October. And so this was mainly to keep the word out that Ada Jenkins Center is doing great things. We're still working, we're still helping families. We wanted to extend our reach. And so we called this a fundraiser. And it was something new and fun to keep people engaged. I have to give a shout out to our events manager who has been rocking it through this whole crazy, can we have an event, can we not have an event season. She has stayed on top of it and found new ways to do fun new things. And so this was kind of like our next, well, let's give it a shot. So our platform was QGive. And seriously, the largest consideration we had for it was that it integrated with our CRM, which we use Bloomerang. I don't know if anybody here does, but I can also highly recommend that. So that we didn't have to do a duplication of data. There was no data migration from one platform to another. It all fed right into our CRM, and it was easy for tracking gifts. It was easy to see who was a repeat donor. It just made it really easy. So we were like, oh, check, love that. We also loved the fee. $200 per month. And like, you can just do it for 4 weeks. You can just make it a $200 campaign. We actually bought it for 2 months so that we would have some time at the start to play with it and kind of work it out and see. We actually designed the pages for our folks. We let them personalize it, but to make it super simple, we went in and created pages for each of our participants. So anyway, so the $200 was really attractive to us. And then there is a 4% transaction fee. So for each transaction that comes in, QGive, that's where they make their money. They take it off the top. Oops. La, 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 la. And sorry about that. Our actual, we actually netted 16,200 was our actual result. So 60% more than what we had projected. And I have an asterisk there because 2 of our participants were more active than others. They were very well connected in the community. They happened to be mother-in-law and daughter-in-law who love each other. And they really beat the bushes and sent it to their networks and promoted it. And I will say that that is a key component I would recommend for any peer-to-peer campaign, is that you get folks who get it, that they know what you're trying to do. They help spread the word. They are, what they call evangelists for your organization. And we also, as we thought about approaching these folks and asking them to be participants, we took a look, we kind of creeped their social media and saw, did they have a following? Did they post frequently? Are these people who would be really comfortable and agile at using social media in a way that we were proposing? So that all played into what we see as our success. And I want to take a moment and show you really quickly what our page looks like. So I'm going to share that for a moment. So this was our page. Did that come up? I never trust myself with technology.
It did.
It's a page off of our main page. We have a whole section here for events. And so what we did, we talked about, we had our branding, our icon. We talked a little bit about what it was. This is the wrap up because the event is now over, but everyone was invited to cast votes at $5 a vote. So people sent this out to their networks, and for $5, a friend could vote and say, yes, I want to vote for Nora's recipe. And then here we recognize the winners, again, mother and daughter-in-law. And then we listed everybody's pages right here. Again, there were 19 participants. And you could go through and see, okay, so Angela helped out and this was her recipe. That looks really interesting, but I want to see the winners. All right, so let's see what Nora did. Chocolate tart with shortbread crust. That sounds awesome. So this is her QGive page. Again, we set up the framework, but she went in and we asked everybody to talk a little bit about why they are passionate about the Ada Jenkins Center. So that's her little write-up. We asked everyone to take photos of what they're doing, and then a photo of their recipe as their finished confection, which just looks fabulous, and then the recipe itself. And then up here we had right off the top their fundraising thermometer and their goal and what their achievement was. So every participant had a page like this, and it just was really heartwarming to see how many people responded. We had a couple hundred people respond, and so they were not only voters, participants in our events, but now they are in our database, so we can email them and keep them connected to our organization. That is all.
Excellent. And I love that you shared some different perks along the way, of the thermometer or the capture of the email address of participants. And some of these are probably things you can tinker and toggle with. Do we want to capture the email address or not? Do we want to ask a donor for their home mailing address or not? So there's probably some flexibility within the tools, and we can dive deeper in the general discussion. But I'd love to pass the microphone to Miss Amber Tracewell.
Thanks, Adrienne. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here with you today. So as Adrienne mentioned, I am Amber Tracewell. I'm the Senior Director of Development with Carolina Breast Friends. So if you don't know much about Carolina Breast Friends, we are located on Moorhead here in Charlotte. We've been around for about 18 years now, and our main mission is to provide support services for men and women battling breast cancer in the local Charlotte area. So we do anything from helping with educational tools. We have different doctors and nurses come in and talk about treatment options. We have a wellness program that has cooking while going through cancer treatments, yoga, Reiki, healing touch. And then we just have a really great mentor program that connects one survivor to someone several years ahead in their journey. So if you know anyone going through breast cancer, I would invite you to reach out to me afterwards. We would love to be a resource. So what we do with our peer-to-peer fundraising platform is it really powers a special event fundraiser, a specific one for us. It's called Dancing with the Stars of Charlotte for the Pink House, and we've been doing it for 6 years now. So basically the way our event is run, it's modeled after, the popular Dancing with the Stars television show. And every year we have a full recruitment of 13 notable charlatans who will come and join us for almost a year worth of fundraising and just being an ambassador for Carolina Breast Friends. And it is no small task that they undertake. Each of these stars commit to, again, being a part of our organization for almost a year. They commit to taking a minimum of 30 ballroom dance lessons that they will perform in front of a sold out crowd of 1,200 at Night Theater in Uptown. And then we ask them to sign a commitment to raise a minimum of $30,000 for our organization. So it's a really, really big deal for Carolina Breast Friends. Our budget is a little over $1 million. And this event in the last 6 years has raised about $3.5 million for us. So it's huge. Our organization is staffed by 6 of us. There's 2 of us in our development department. It's myself and we have another director of development. And so kind of our main goal is to make sure that this event is a success. So in year 1, we did not have a peer-to-peer fundraising platform at all. These 13 stars were just out getting donations. We were taking them in, we were tracking them basically on an Excel spreadsheet and manually dumping the data into our CRM, which at the time was Blackbaud's eTapestry. It worked well. The first year we raised $315,000, but when we debriefed with all of the stars about their experience, they brought the idea of investing in a peer-to-peer fundraising platform. And it's kind of similar to what Alex was saying. These stars really wanted to see where they were at. It was a competition. So they wanted to see where their co-stars were. And we didn't have a tool for that until we got a peer-to-peer fundraising platform. So in year 2, we went with Everyday Hero. We used that for several years. It was a great tool. We basically considered the main criteria, as Karen said, to be something that would easily integrate into our CRM, which at the time was eTapestry. What we did was we really did a lot of research with Everyday Hero. We saw some local charities that also use them for their fundraising campaigns, and I reached out to them, and we had just some very candid talks about what worked for them, what they didn't like. And then we actually asked Everyday Hero to build out kind of a template. We talked to them about what our event looked like, and they built out a template for us, and then we could tweak it before we went live. So that was huge. Another reason that we went with a peer-to-peer fundraising platform is because the night of the event, when we're in the theater, again, it's a dance competition. Every dollar is one vote for these stars. So we needed something that they could have in hand, easily accessible during the show. And so everyone, of course, has their phone. So our fundraising platform at the time allowed people to easily access a stars link. And then we had a big screen so you could see, how people are competing. And usually during the show, we would see about a $35,000 to $40,000 increase in our funds. So peer-to-peer has been great for our organization. Recently, Everyday Hero has been retired. And so now we're using Just Giving, which again is another tool that integrates well into Blackbaud. We have upgraded to Razor's Edge. And so for us, Just Giving is free, which is huge. It's part of Blackbaud. So we pay no extra to be able to use that. And I would also say another huge consideration for us is because we are raising hundreds of thousands of dollars with this, we wanted to have a tool that enabled donors to absorb the transaction fee. As you guys know, the charity usually has to pay that transaction fee, and it can be anywhere from 4% to 6%. So what we found is by using this platform, about 90% of our donors choose to cover that transaction fee. So that has been huge to us. And just really the other thing I would say, if you're considering investing in a fundraising platform, from year one, when we didn't use anything, until year two, we had a 75% increase in our fundraising. And I think that obviously that can be attributed to our wonderful stars and their network of donors, but certainly to the fact that we made it so easy for people to be able to give to their stars. And then lastly, the other thing, it's very interactive. So I don't have to deal with 13 stars calling me asking who just gave, I don't understand, where I'm at with who's giving. They can easily interact. You can see immediately that someone gave on your page. You can thank them. And so I just think, especially right now in terms of donor stewardship, that's so huge to be able to thank someone in a timely manner. So we've had a lot of success with it. And I just think, I can't imagine how we did it year one without one. So.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. So I'll share with you guys a little bit about the organization and then the challenge we faced here at Apparo and then the solution that we formulated. So as you guys know, Apparo has been around about 18 years. We operate on an annual operating budget of just under $1.5 million. Our total staff is about 13 people. And for development, we have 2 full-time people and 1 part-time person. And the challenge that we faced was last October, in the middle of COVID, we would have normally hosted a community impact breakfast event, which was a signature annual event, part of the Benevon model. We had really labeled it in our minds and heads as a fundraiser. And we hosted it at a hotel in a ballroom with 30 different table captains, and they each had 10 people at their table. So around 300 people would attend this breakfast. We got to do some impactful storytelling, bring some new faces around Apparo and encourage them to maybe begin a relationship with Apparo through volunteering with us. We use skilled volunteers to give technology solutions and training to the nonprofits that need it. We also would encourage them to just join our social media channels or sign up to join our emails, or if they would like to give a gift, of course, we all seek to get a recurring monthly gift, but a one-time gift in the moment is great as well. So that community impact breakfast we knew was not going to be able to happen as planned. What we thought we would do is have a series of asynchronous, not on the same date and time, but just small breakfasts all around the city. And we would ask our normally who would have been a table captain to consider hosting that. And different people that raised their hand and said, yes, I'll host a fundraiser for Apparo, a mini community impact breakfast. Different ones had different visions of how that could unfold. Some were like, I'd like to do a breakfast. Some are like, I'd like to do it virtually. So I'll send coffee out to each of the houses of the participants who are my attendees. Some said, I would like to do it in person and I don't like mornings, so I'm going to do an afternoon happy hour on the patio of a Mexican restaurant. We'll call it Technology, Tacos, and Tequila. And so everyone wanted to really make it their own thing, which we felt was a wonderful way to give them some ownership and co-creation ability with their event. And so it stopped being called the, Apparo Community Impact Breakfast or Mini Breakfast, and we renamed it AMP events, AMP, thinking of like amp up, amplify Apparo, but it stood for Apparo Multiplier Party. We love our acronyms at Apparo. I think we make an acronym out of everything. So an Apparo AMP event was presented to a prospective host like this. We said, since we can't gather in the hotel ballroom, we would like to choose hosts who are willing to host some sort of virtual or in person or even hybrid event that would raise $2,000 for our agency. And so as you think through your personal and professional connections, you invite as many or as few as you see fit. And for that $2,000 goal, we can provide you, a fundraising page as well as an event page. And I'll show you those tools in just a minute. So the host was able to go in and tinker if they wanted to create their own event page and create their own fundraising page. But really, we offered those services for them and just said, oh, we're thinking of this as a header photo. We thought a video might be appropriate here. We wrote some copy. What do you think? So they had real creative and editorial control, but tech tools and a host, we wanted to take the lift off them as much as possible. And this tool that we chose called Give Lively made that possible. Because there was all different themes and all different times and all that, we talked through, would we want to give a budget to each host? And some hosts would refuse the budget and say, no, I got this. I'm buying the tacos, I'm buying the tequila. And other hosts would say, you know what? I really do want to have a magician on my Zoom just to give some extra sizzle for why would an attendee hop on yet another screen in the evening. So I'm going to invite my guests to bring their families, bring their children. We'll have a magician. And so Apparo provided money for that magician. And so we started off with this model. Apparo would spend $500 towards the host of we want to buy coffee, we want to buy bourbon, we want to, how they wanted to spend it. And then if two hosts came together, host A and host B would each have a fundraising goal of $2,000. So at that point, they had a $1,000 budget to spend with a $4,000 fundraising goal. We've learned some lessons along the way. So I'm going to share my screen and show you guys a little bit of the back end of what Give Lively looks like. But I'll share with you some lessons we've learned along the way too. All right, and share. So this is the dashboard for the Give Lively tool that we chose. And one of the reasons we were called to it was because it was super simple and easy to use. It does not interface cleanly with our CRM, but we prioritized the user experience, like the host experience, as well as the donor experience and attendee experience. We thought that's higher priority to us than us having to do some manual backend labor to get the data out of Give Lively and into Salesforce, which is the CRM that we use. Another reason we chose it is because this tool was founded by philanthropists who have technology skills, and they made a promise when they founded it, it would be forever free. So you guys have probably seen tools out there that are like free for 2 weeks or free for 3 months or free for right now. And we don't know, maybe a year or two down the road, they'll come back to us and say, we're glad you love it. We're glad you're using it like crazy. By the way, we're going to start a subscription fee, and you're so invested in it and all your data's there. So sometimes you feel like, wow, now I'm captive. I need to start paying the subscription fee, whatever it might be. So we like the pledge they made early on that this was a forever free tool. And the only expense that a nonprofit would have to use it is the standard Stripe credit card processing fees. So those are 2.2% if it's a credit card transaction and 30 cents per transaction. Or if it's an ACH, then it's a 0.8%, so less than 1%, and there's no per transaction fee. So we really felt good about those two price points as well. When you set up your Your dashboard, it gives you a lot of options, like how do you want your thank you message to look? How do you want your, would you like to post some questions for attendees? Like question A, have you ever heard of Apparo? Question B, would you be interested in hosting an event of your own? Question C, what's your favorite football team? Just some interesting things you can activate. I'm going to show you the 3 ways that we have used Give Lively. The first one being this page. We have this, what I'd say is leadership society inside of Apparo. And we use Give Lively 100% to sign people up for a monthly giving program. And as you can see over here, they can choose, we ran a campaign with the Giving Tuesday in November and Share Charlotte to say if you would give 21 for 21, that was kind of our hashtag for leading into the year, then people could sign up at the $21 a month level. Of course, 50, 100, all those options. And they can give a one-time gift or give it monthly. We like the fact they can dedicate this gift to somebody that they care about. They can even raise their hand at this point and say, I want to fundraise for this. And all the social buttons are here to share that they are now giving to Apparo through this tool. And so this page is a unique one-off called our Philanthropic Leadership Society page. And we can address questions about it at the end. The other 2 pages, so I said we use Give Lively for 3 types of things. We use it to build event pages, and we use it to build fundraising pages. So just about every single event we're going to do is going to have a fundraising component. And that means this guy, Eric, who hosted an event, you can see his was at the Porter's house in November. Let's learn about Apparo and let's taste some good bourbon. This event where people could see the date, the time, the place, and RSVP for it, they also had an option to, you know what, I can't come to the event, but I will make a donation. So on the event invitation page, they could collect money. All the money would fuel through to his actual fundraising page. So this is his fundraising page. People could decide to be anonymous if they didn't want their gift to be public, or if they did, then people could see what they were giving and it was real time. So sometimes we've had virtual events where we'll show this thermometer in real time to attendees and they'll say, oh gosh, we're getting so close to $2,000, just a little bit more would bump us over the top. That's a nice benefit because it does update in real time. And we want people to be engaged with us on that virtual Zoom, or we use another event gathering platform called Wonder. And so what we might do is instead of sending them over here on their computer screen, we'll ask them to text a certain number to this platform. We might say, whip out your phone. We're here to gather for Eric's event. Text the word Eric, AARIK, to 44321. So then they're making the transaction on their mobile phone while they're still hopefully face-to-face with us on the screen and watching the event unfold. You can have manual donations added. So if somebody decides, I want to use my donor advised fund and make a gift of $1,000, I'm not going to do it right through this portal, and Apparo pays the fees at that point. They can email us during the live event and say, I'll make a pledge of $1,000. And so we can manually add that gift and watch the thermometer grow. So that's an example of, again, an event invitation page and an actual event page. And then I'll show you just a few more. This is the person who wanted to host tacos, tequila, and technology. And they hosted their event at Cantina 1511, and it was 2 people. And then here's their fundraising page. And they were able to blow their goal out of the water. And these are all optional buttons, you guys. Y'all could fill these out for your own nonprofit with different levels. Like, what would $500 do for Carolina Breast Friends or for Ada Jenkins Center? So we have some anonymous donations. We really like the way that this platform handles at tax time, sending them an email reminder of their gift, so it's handy for them. And then the last few things, a Christmas kickoff. So this, you can put a video up here in the top spot. You can put graphics up here in the top spot. This was going to be in person, and then they ended up pulling the plug at the last minute just because the clubhouse said we won't be allowed to host a gathering in person. Coffee for a cause. This is the one where we use some of that budget to send coffee to each person's house in advance of gathering on a Zoom to learn more about Apparo and learn more about a coffee tasting. I'm also going to show this just because Alex was willing to share it. This is a quick peek at the Sister to Sister campaign page. Is there anything you want me to point out on this page, Alex?
Just that if you scroll down, you can see one of the things, and I think that somebody asked the question about who does the pages. We did give the option to each of our service units to do their own page by a certain date. And if it wasn't up there by a certain date, then one of our admins went in and it just created its own page. We had like a standard one. So you can see that they are allowed to personalize their pages, but if they choose not to, then they get what we put up. So that by a certain date, if it wasn't done, it kind of automatically went up there so that we weren't always depending on our service units to put this together if it was too much for them. So having that be very standardized and not have a lot of work from us was also one of the considerations for this platform in dealing with 19 different service units, and the fact that we'll have to change this every year. So this will be something that will be updated on a yearly basis, because our campaign year for them is our membership year, which is October 1 through September 30th. So this will roll over for 2022 come October 1st of this year.
Thank you, thank you. So that wraps up 4 stories of 4 different organizations with 4 different challenges and 4 different tools. And I'm going to open up the chat box and see what kind of questions we have, and then I'm kind of moderate who on the panel should address them. The first question that we got from Crystal Emmerich, thank you, Crystal, is what kind of prerequisites would we want to consider before doing a peer-to-peer campaign? Anybody feel strongly want to tackle that first?
I think I kind of already mentioned it for us. Our big consideration was just making sure that it's integrated well with our CRM. I saw a question later on in the chat box that someone was asking Adrian how timely it was to manually enter. And it sounded like for you, it wasn't. For us, it would have been a nightmare. We had about 7,500 individual donations onto our page. So if myself and the other development staff had to do that, it would probably take us all year. So that was a huge consideration for us. And then, like I mentioned before, also having a platform that would give the donor the opportunity, if they wish, to cover the transaction fee and not pass it off to the charity to cover that. So that was huge for us.
I would say for me, it was truly about capacity and bandwidth of my team and the amount of time that we actually spent interacting with our service unit leaders for Sister to Sister. And much like Amber, there's also the opportunity for them to cover the cost of the transaction, because there's a small, I think it's like a 4% transaction fee that we pay. And again, like on the back end, all of the information is there on the back end to pull and download it into the CRM. It doesn't connect specifically with Razor's Edge, which is what we use, but we do have the capability of pulling all that information and putting it in.
I will wrap it up and say that I think, something really to consider is who you ask to be part of your peer-to-peer. You really want somebody who's excited about it and interested and willing to, virtually knock on some doors. And, as I mentioned, we actually looked at some of our friends before contacting them. We looked at their Instagram feeds. We looked at some of their social media profiles to see how active were they and how easily would they adapt to this technology.
And I would also just add, when considering it, think about, like Karen said, who's going to be using this? Who's going to be fundraising for you? One thing we had to consider was for our stars, it's, a range of ages and comfortability with technology. And so we wanted them to feel comfortable as this is their best fundraising tool. So we hosted a lot of just kind of tutorials for them in the initial start of it when we did help them set up their pages. We were always available to help with any kind of tech or troubleshooting. So I think that's huge. You want to be able to make sure the tool that you use is able to work for those fundraising for you.
And Amber, say the name of your platform again.
Yeah, so right now we're using Just Giving. Before I mentioned we did Everyday Hero, but we loved that tool. They have retired it. Just Giving is working for us. I'm not here to endorse, as none of you are, one platform over the other, but there has been some pitfalls for us this year just because this is year one of Just Giving. So we were kind of in their beta testing. The good news is that they are working really well with us to tweak through the problems that we're having. So we are going to stick with them for next year and hope that those are fixed.
And thinking about who to choose as peer-to-peer, I mean, for us at Apparo, anyone who raised their hand and said, I want to do this, we would absolutely work with them. Some of them didn't hit their fundraising goal, and that was a risk, right? If we're spending money out of pocket and we're looking for a 3-to-1 or a 4-to-1 return on that investment, sometimes we didn't get there. We get to choose when the campaign ends. So a few folks said, you know what, my event came and went, but there were so many people in my church and neighborhood who didn't get to attend. Can we leave it open for another 3 weeks? Absolutely. So I think a lot of people who are willing to be a fundraiser for you and raise their hand and make that commitment, take that commitment seriously and plan to circle back with folks who couldn't participate and say, hey, I'm $200 away from my goal. Would you feel like participating in this? Another thought was we prepared a manual for each and every host. And that manual is a living, breathing document because it would get better and better each time we would do another one and we'd learn some things. But we provide sample verbiage. Here's an email you might want to copy and paste and make it your own of how to invite people to this event, and give 2 links. One, here's the event page. We'd love for you to come. And if you can't, would you like to make a donation, and give them that second link right in their email. They could have done it from the first page, but just in case it wasn't super intuitive, like RSVP no, still make a donation, we just gave them that second page because that second page shows the thermometer and shows how they're progressing towards the goal. We would give them suggestions on what kinds of timing to use for the promotion up to the event. 1 week out, a reminder, 3 days out, a reminder, day before, day of. So we kind of had a 4 touch point system. And some people would follow that manual to the T, and some people would say, nope, I got this. That doesn't feel quite comfortable for me. So other thoughts on ways that you guys were able to coach or assist your participants?
We also created a toolkit with the help of CauseVox. I saw that there was a question about like how supportive was the platform that we use. They were super supportive, and they still are. Like if we have any questions, and I think, I don't know how much this was in consideration, but the money comes in very quickly. There's not like this lag time. I mean, again, we use Razor's Edge and we use Black Belt Merchant Services, and there is a lag time that can get a little hairy. They're trying to match up money. The money from CauseVox transfers into our account very quickly. And that really, if you're working with a finance team, that really pleased our finance team tremendously because it didn't create a lot of extra work for them. But yeah, we had to provide a toolkit for each of the people using it. Mostly we're a national organization, so they're very specific brand standards. So while we wanted to allow them to create their own page, there were also very specific brand standards on a national level that they needed to follow. So it was a step-by-step guide for them to use that we worked with our marketing team on to make it as easy as possible for each of our service units.
And our platform at UGIV was just a drag and drop. So I think as more people get accustomed to technology and more comfortable with it, they get more comfortable with using it. So like I said, we created the framework where we said, here's where this goes, here's where this goes, so we have consistency over the pages. But people just took off. One of our participants took all these pictures with her children in the kitchen that just did a series of photos that was absolutely adorable. Another woman who, retired woman who is kind of crafty and makes things on the side, she went all out. I mean, so it was kind of surprising in a way when you tell folks, hey, we're doing this, give it some thought, what they come up with.
I see a question in the chat that I'll address. Thank you, from Cynthia Walsh. And it talks about, what's the time and energy? So with each of our AMP events, the goal to raise $2,000, Some people would be able to get there, you know, with 10 guests participating, and some would need 20 or 40. The most, I think, different donations we ever had to log was right in the 50 range. We developed what we called a communications journey for those donors, and it was segmented, meaning each and every donor got the automatic email generated from Give Lively to record their gift and to say thank you. But they also got a follow-up acknowledgement letter from Apparo within the first week. And those would be happening as we were logging their donations into our CRM. And then those that had given $100 or more, you know, once they reached that threshold, they got a handwritten note from somebody on the development team or our CEO, or even some of our support staff at Apparo. If, you know, they knew we had a crunch, and we had, Alex laughs at me. I was like, we had 70 letters just in, and she's like, that's nothing, you know, but we'll kind of divide and conquer the work, and maybe have 10 people write, 7 people write 10 letters each, or whatever, handwritten notes each. So we don't have a truly sophisticated fundraising CRM. We have Salesforce, and it tracks all of our client services activities and all of our communications with our board. It's just truly a business CRM with lots of bells and whistles, probably more functionality than we've even enabled and turned on and activated. So as we enter those by hand, it is probably a 5-minute per donor process, but it allows us to take some additional notes like, oh, this guy owns a real estate firm, you know. Automation wouldn't let you do that, but conversation during the Zoom event let me know, oh, he owns a real estate firm, he lives in the Lake Norman area, and I think he said his kids play soccer. I could add those details into the CRM as I was documenting that donation, which is helpful. Relationships are key to fundraising. Sally. Okay, Sally Gans's question. How did we rank the support of each of the platforms? You did address that, Alex, didn't you?
Yeah, ours, we had great support. Or we have great ongoing support so far. So fingers crossed.
And I'll share for Give Lively, when we first started with them, they were still like live people one-on-one. This is last fall. We could get a person on the phone. They could say, oh yeah, I see the glitch that you're talking about. Okay, we'll work on that and get a solution to you in 24 hours. Now they've gotten to the point where they've grown, where it's all a ticketing system, but they're still really responsive, and we're still really happy with their customer support.
I will say for us with Just Giving, it started out as a ticketing support option, but now because of our event and what we're able to do with it, we have our own account person, and I am probably on the phone with her at least weekly, and she knows the ins and outs of our event. She knows who our 13 stars are. She's always helping us with troubleshooting, and she's just been great. So I would say from a support system, they've been wonderful.
Give support was great, but it turned out we just didn't need it that much, because it was such a, you know, what you see, what you get. It was just so easy to use.
So a question has come through based on CauseVox. So for you, Alex, it says, what was the cost investment again for CauseVox?
So we pay $1,200 a year to use the platform. And again, you can use it for free. And then there's still that there's still that 4.1 or 4.2% fee that you pay because I feel like they use Swipe or something that they use like as their service, but it's a free option. Again, we pay that because we want extra abilities. We want the ability to go in and pull the information and be able to put it into our system very easily and very quickly, and as well as being the back end too. If you choose the free platform, there's not a way to go in. So if I receive a donation in the office that's for sister to sister, if a check comes in, we have the ability to go in and put it towards the service unit that it's coming in for. The free platform, we were not able to do that. So for us, it made sense. It was still cheap enough, you know, at just over $100 a month for it to be cost effective, but it also gave us the abilities that we wanted. And they have a tier. It's very tiered. So like we got a lower end. I think we just got the second tier of support, and around that support, like we actually have an actual person that is our person that we contact specifically when we have issues. So it's not ticketing, it's not whatever. We basically reach out to our person and like, hey, we have an issue with this, and gets back to us within 24 hours.
And about costs, I would love for this panel to go around and share if the tool they talked about today in the webinar is the only tool, the only channel for digital donations, or do they also have something that exists in addition? And I'll give my example first. So Apparo's website is enabled with a tool called PayTrace that existed long before I came on board and will probably exist long after. And PayTrace allows us to let some of our sponsors who maybe are going to make a payment for $10,000 or $20,000 make that payment for ridiculously low rates to us. And we pay a monthly fee for it. And that monthly fee is like somewhere around $20 a month. That will always be in place because of these larger donations. It's a terrible experience if you're that, sponsor and you're writing that check for $20,000. It's confusing, but it's useful, and the amount of money it saves us in fees is worth it. We wouldn't want to send them through Give Lively. On the flip side, Give Lively gives us all this ability to do fundraising above and beyond through events and through peer-to-peer and building contests. There's some functionality we haven't dug into yet, but it's right along the lines of having teams. So you could have 12 different organizations compete against each other, and then they can build teams underneath them. So, this team is raising this money, this team, and all the 12 thermometers are shown on one page to see how are they pacing against each other. So that's interesting functionality. The texting functionality is interesting too. But other panelists, I'll ask you, Karen, first. Do you have 2 or more ways for people to give to Ada Jenkins?
We do. So we have an overlay on our website. It's run by a company called Fundraise Up, and it's a widget that has a sticky button on every page of the website. It says donate, and it's a really interesting platform that uses AI to determine where the person is coming from. Have they donated before? If they've donated before, they might suggest a larger amount the next time they donate. There's an automatic monthly function. There's a donor cover function. Yes, I will cover the 4% fee or whatever. And I will say, I think 83% of our folks cover that fee. But it's really interesting. And again, it integrates with Bloomerang. So it goes right from whoever applies on our web, whoever makes a gift on our web page, it's automatically entered into our CRM, or we don't have to do anything for that. And it allows us to take, I think, Apple Pay, Google Pay, Plaid, whatever that is, Stripe, ACH, check, and I don't know what
Bitcoin.
else.
It's going to take
Bitcoin. No Bitcoin.
Amber, how about you? Do you have additional ways people can give to?
Yeah, like Alex was saying, we also use Blackbaud Merchant Services. So anytime anyone goes to our website, they can give that way, and it's processed that way, and then it incorporates into Blackbaud's Razor's Edge.
And that's the same for us.
This question from one of our attendees says, do your platforms create a text donation element, or do you use another tool to create that text to give? So ours was baked right in for Give Lively. Text to give was just part of the organic program of Give Lively. But what about the other 3?
Ours does not do a text to give. It's just, again, it's a link and they can click on it. We also have a QR code. So all of our stars have their own kind of business marketing card that talks about our event. And there's a QR code right on there that's individualized to their own personal fundraising link. So that's neat, but no, we don't do text to give, unfortunately.
We use text to give in our October event. We used GiveSmart was our platform there, and they had a text to give option that we used because there were so many people and so many moving parts in that.
We do not. CauseVox does not, or we do not have the package that does it. There may be a package that allows for text to give, but if so, we do not have that. It's not as an option.
As we wrap up this webinar, any lessons learned, ladies, that you're like, I just wish I knew this going in? This was the one thing I wish someone had told me before I launched into peer-to-peer.
So we have a big lesson learned. One of Karen or Alex may have mentioned it earlier. We get a lot of off actions as well. You know, if you're a big corporation, it might be coming from your accounts payable department and it's a physical check, or just, you know, whatever reason. If someone doesn't want to go to the link and enter their credit card, they call the pink house and we have to upload their gift offline. Normally that wouldn't be an issue. We're still able to do it, but with this platform, for some reason, I enter it offline, but I don't have the ability to say that it came from Adrian. So it just shows up as anonymous. And some people don't mind that, but some people do. And that hasn't been great, but that's one of the issues that they are working on that will hopefully be tweaked for us for next year. So, but it would have been much better to know ahead of time instead of having to apologize to our stars and their donors for why they're not seeing their name.
Really important.
Mm-hmm.
And we had something a little bit similar to that, where when the gift came in, it was all coded a certain way, but some of their donors would go through the web page instead of the event page. And so we had to recode it on the back end just to make sure, like you said, they get credit.
And for us, was there something, I mean, I think that we've heard feedback from our service, like they wish that we'd done this. We've been doing this for years already. I don't know how long CauseVox existed, but they really, the people that use it are very appreciative of the fact that, again, they kind of get that up to date. They don't have to go through someone in our office to find out where they are in their goal. It's very immediate for them. And so it's something that we'll continue to use just because of that user satisfaction for us.
And the aha I'll share, and then I'll turn it over to Jennifer Ray, who is from Apparo. She might have some closing remarks for this group. Was I love the ability to make manual adjustments, because you might get a check and you might get a donor advised fund, and you know, you want your peer-to-peer fundraiser, if they're competing, you want their thermometer to reflect accurately. So I would look for that feature, the ability to add a manual donation. Of course, these platforms don't want that, right? They want to collect the processing fees. Like, well, why do I want to let you collect checks? That doesn't serve me. But ask and look for that feature. And then secondly, some donors want to stay anonymous and some want to be public. And so if you've got that variability, the option to offer both, I really like that option. And then the option to let your donor cover the fee if they would like to. That can save your agency a lot of money. Sometimes it's not offered, sometimes it's insisted upon. I think having the donor get to choose is another important feature to look for. Jennifer, welcome back.
Hi, thank you. You know, it's so interesting, Adrian. I recently contributed to an online fundraiser and they had a checkbox. I will cover the service fee. And I checked it or whatever. And when I looked at the end, the service fee was $3.13. That's huge per donor. That's unbelievable. So anyway, yeah, a timely thing. So we're at the top of the hour. I need to close this thing up and let everybody be on their way. 2 announcements very quickly. As you've listened to this content, if you are trying to figure out, hey, how do I even know what platforms work with our technology? How do I even approach this? That's what Apparo is here for. Give us a ring. Let us help you problem solve and brainstorm through it. And we can probably point you in the right direction on technologies and platforms that integrate nicely and play well together in the same sandbox. Secondly, keep your eyes open for our next webinar next month. One of our favorites is coming back, Laura Rebel, to talk about Google Analytics. So we've got some great stuff to offer you, and I hope we will see you there. For this webinar, look for a follow-up email that has links to the recording and to any resources that we have available for you. And with that, I thank everybody for their time and attention today. Thank you so much. Ladies, thank you for a great session. We appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Thanks. Bye.
Have a great day, guys.